Hello, everybody. It is Tom, and I am back with another installment of Heartstopper Comics versus Show. So, this is where we look at the comics and we look at the show of Heartstopper, and we talk about them and compare them and do all that fun stuff. In our last installment, we had Nick coming over to Charlie's house after the kiss at Harry's party, and they kissed a lot, and then they went to the conservatory and had tea and talked and kissed a lot, and then they did some text messaging, and Nick sent Charlie a lovely selfie of him and Nellie, and Charlie's brain exploded all over the place, and from cuteness, and that's where we stopped. So, let's get right to it, because it's actually getting close to my bedtime. Also, as a note, I'm not sure if the microphone will pick it up or not, but in addition to the usual screaming children at the playground, I also have like an army of cicadas living in the trees just outside my window, and at this time of evening, they are very loud indeed. So if you hear like ree 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 in the background, that's my cicada impression. You might hear them in the background, just letting you know that's what they are. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Alright, so the very last thing we saw was Nick looking up YouTube videos about being bisexual. So, we move right on into a school scene where Charlie comes into school and Nick is there writing in his notebook. In is the correct preposition there. And Charlie sits down and they're both grinning and blushing and saying, "Hi, hi." I really love this scene in the show where, because I'm sure that, when we see Charlie coming into school that day, he is smiling, but I'm sure he has to have a little bit of apprehension as well after all he went through with Ben, like wondering, like, oh, okay, well, Nick is fine when it's just the two of us in my bedroom or under an umbrella, but how is he going to be when we're actually at school? But, like, the second that Nick spots him, he's just grinning. Both of them just smiling at each other. I can't. I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so here we get a little bit of a montage of Nick and Charlie being cute together. So we have Nick walking with Sai and Charlie walking with Tao, and both Tao and Sai are confused, but Nick has to take the opportunity to squeeze Charlie's face, which, again, this is part of, we've talked about before, the kind of easy physicality that Nick has with Charlie in the comics. And this is one of my favorite maneuvers of Nick's, where he just takes Charlie's face and just squeezes it just because. And yeah, Charlie seems to find it amusing. Okay, and then Charlie's picking a bug out of Nick's hair, and they're saying, we're saying, "See you tomorrow," both being kind of blushy and cute. And then we skip to Tuesday, and we see them again, just talking. So, like, in the first episode, we do see something similar to this, where we see, like, Nick and Charlie running into each other over and over again, but we don't get this kind of sequence where we see them being coupley together in public to the extent that their friends notice, because I think they are a lot more, not cautious exactly, but they're not as open with their new relationship in the show as they are in the comics. Like, I think Nick even says in the comics later, "Well, I'm not treating you any differently than I did before." Okay, so we have Aled. Yay, Aled! We love you, Aled. And if you haven't read Radio Silence, which is wrong finger, is right there on my bookshelf above it's transphobia, not transphobia sticker. So I really do like that book, and I like Aled a lot as a character, so I am sad that we did not get him in the show, but we got Isaac, who's amazing, and it's going to be such a struggle for me not to say Isak, because I've been doing the scam reactions, and every time I do that, I have to force myself to say Isak instead of Isaac, and I'm finally saying Isak every time, so now I'm bound to say, like, Isaac. No, I'm bound to say Isak at some point when I mean Isaac from the show. Stop having the same name, people in shows that I watch. Okay, so we have Aled and Tao, and Tao is saying, "Oh, it's worse than I thought. He still hasn't given up on Nick Nelson." And Aled, kind of similar to Isaac in the show, is very perceptive, quiet, but he sees many things. So I think Aled and Tao looking at Nick and Charlie, I think Tao obviously is like, oh shit, Charlie still has a thing for this straight guy. Whereas I think Aled is looking at this thing, saying to himself, like, oh, Nick is into Charlie, cool. Yeah, very different perceptions there. Oh, okay, and this, I really love this scene. I'm sad that this scene wasn't in the show because just this scene cracks me up every time. Okay, so we have, they're at rugby practice, and Charlie catches the ball and immediately says, oh no, and gets just tackled to the ground. And yeah, is lying there. And the other guys are like, oh, holy shit, Charlie, Christ, sorry, Charlie, I forgot how light you are. And Charlie's like, okay. And just Nick just zooms through the crowd, just barges his way to the front and is like, are you okay? And he has to be the one to help Charlie to his feet and asks him, are you okay? And Charlie's like, yeah, I think so, but then steps on his leg there and realizes that no, in fact, he is hurt. And Nick, of course, immediately is like, you're hurt! I must take you away. Okay, I'm going to get Charlie an ice pack, bye! And off they go. And everyone is just dotting. And Sai is like, that's a bit... And before he can say that's a bit gay, Ms. Singh, champion of the queer people as usual, is like, okay, back to the game, lads. Yeah, so I just really love this scene because of how Nick behaves here. Just, I mean, I think it makes sense in the show that Nick is a little more quiet about how he feels towards Charlie. But Nick in the comics, there's just something so lovely about how unafraid he is, even though he's not ready to come out, how unafraid he is to just fully show how much he cares for Charlie. Like, in the show we get the rugby game, which we don't see in the comics. We get Nick, like, standing there paralyzed, looking at injured Charlie, like, torn between his two worlds, and it's a great, like, angsty scene, but, like, there's just something really wonderful about, like, Charlie gets knocked down, and Nick just runs to him and helps him up and immediately takes him off to get an ice pack. I just love it. Okay, so when we see them in the changing room, and Nick's like, okay, this will be cold, and Charlie says, I mean, I kind of expected that. Good comeback from Charlie. In fact, ice packs are cold, can confirm. Oh, you know what? It's this scene that I was thinking of. All right, so Charlie says, you didn't have to do this. Seriously, I don't mind if you want to be a bit more distant at school. And Nick is like, hey, I promise I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. Just because I want to keep us a secret doesn't mean we have to start ignoring each other. Also, we're not really acting any different to before we kissed. And he is right. Like, they're not really acting all that different, except that, they kiss. And as he says, apart from doing stuff like this, I guess so. And then smooch. There's some kissy and some little hearts, and okay, the kissy goes on for quite some time. And Charlie says, I thought we were going to try not to kiss at school. And Nick's like, just one more kiss then. Yeah, and that is another thing that we don't really see in the show is Nick and Charlie kissing at school. We only see it in the final episode, which I kind of like, because not only is it something else that sets Nick and Charlie's relationship apart from Charlie and Ben's relationship, but it also shows how meaningful it is for Nick in his coming out journey to not even think about kissing Charlie in the hallway in the last episode, to just be so full of joy and love that we're in the corridor, who cares? Okay, so then we move on to Thursday. Okay, and here we have the kind of the scene that becomes... We do see this scene in the show, though a lot of the dialogue was in the conservatory scene from last episode, from our last installment. But Nick and Charlie lying together in the park, and Nick is telling Charlie, I looked up what bisexual means. Nelly, I've been reading about it all week, and I think that might be me. So, and Charlie takes his hand, and Nick says, but I'm still not sure.
I've been researching about being bisexual. I think that might be me. But I'm not sure.
And Charlie's like, that's okay, you don't have to be sure. You don't even have to think about it. And Nick says, haha, it's pretty much all I've been thinking about lately, which makes sense. Oh, and there's little stars on Nick's shirt, I just noticed. Okay, and Charlie says, well, let me distract you then. Now, I have to say, I adore this scene in the show because I really like the playful side of Charlie that we get in this scene.
Do you want a kiss? Would that help?
Wow.
Just a suggestion.
Wow.
Well, if you're not interested,
Okay,
then just...
hang on. It's a good suggestion.
Like, that whole scene just is really... I love seeing how comfortable Charlie is with Nick and how he feels, like, emboldened to... Because, like, Charlie and Ben... I mean, Charlie always had to kind of walk on eggshells because there was always the chance that something he'd say would be too much for Ben, and Ben would be like, no, I hate you, I don't like you. But to see Charlie just freely flirting with Nick and being so open and, like, unselfconscious was really great to see. Okay, so then they start to kiss, and then that dang couple with their dog come through, and Nick kind of rolls away. And looks like he feels really bad about it. And Charlie doesn't look too happy either, but he understands. So Nick says sorry, and Charlie's like, don't be sorry. And Nick says, I feel bad. And Charlie's like, Nick, I understand, I promise.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
And then, beautiful human being that he is says, can I have an extra kiss when we get back to your house? And Nellie's like, boof. Nellie's like, yes, could you pay attention to me now, please? The real star of the comic and the show. But yeah, the fact that I'm sure it didn't feel good for Charlie in this moment to have Nick pull away from him, but he goes from being a little bit sad about it to just completely reassuring and comforting and, like, coming up with a way to make Nick feel better. Because Nick feels guilty in this moment that he can't be as open with Charlie in front of people as he wants to be. And Charlie's just like, oh, can I have an extra kiss when we get back to your house? And Nick suddenly is able to feel a lot better. And then Nellie comes up and makes everything better. And they throw the Frisbee to Nellie and have a grand old time. Okay, and then we move on to the birthday party. So it's Friday, and Charlie says, so it's kind of my birthday it's kind of my birthday next Tuesday. Me and my friends are going bowling tomorrow, and I was going to ask if you wanted to come, but I know you don't really know my friends, you don't have to. And Nick's just, yes! Very emphatic yes, to the point where Mr. Lang is like, Nick and Charlie, keep it down, please.
So it's kind of my birthday on Saturday.
Is it?
Yeah. Me and my friends are going bowling, and I was going to ask if you wanted to come, but I know you don't really know them, so you don't have to.
Yes.
Nick and Charlie, keep it down, please.
And this is pretty much how it goes in the show as well, although I feel like we don't get quite as much of a shout from Nick in the show, but still loud enough to be heard. Okay, and Nick says, thanks for giving me barely any time to get you a present. Charlie's like, you don't have to get me a present. Oh, and that's it. That's the end of the scene. Okay. Yeah, so the scene is a little bit longer in the show, and we get a little more back and forth. And, of course, we have to mention the pinky touch.
Here. Stanley. Here. Come on.
Thanks for giving me barely any time to get you a present.
You don't have to get me a present.
No, I am gonna.
I'm serious.
Here. Oscar.
There's something so very sweet and so very just lovely about Charlie gently tapping Nick's pinky and then Nick gently tapping Charlie's pinky back. So, love the pinky touch. Alright, and so we have Nick's mom dropping him off at the bowling alley, and Nick saying, oh yeah, Charlie's dad is dropping me home, and Nick's mom is like, okay, have fun. Alright, and there goes Nick into the bowling alley, and there's Charlie waiting for him in one of his giant sweaters. Happy birthday! And Nick just full on hugs him and swims. I'm tired. So Nick just full on hugs him and swings him around, sweeps him off his feet literally. And Charlie's like, haha, it's not my birthday till Tuesday. And I said you didn't have to get me anything. And Nick's like, and I ignored you.
You came.
Yeah, of course I did. Happy birthday.
I said you didn't have to get me anything.
And I ignored you.
And here we have Tao and Elle and Aled. Yay! And I love Charlie's introduction to Tao. That's Tao. Sorry in advance if he says anything rude to you. That's just how he is. That's just the way he is. And that's Aled. He's really shy, but I promise he's really nice. And Nick's like, hey, isn't that? And Charlie jumps in. Her name's Elle now. She moved to the all-girls school last year after she came out as trans.
I feel like I know her from somewhere.
That's Elle. She used to go to our school. She would have been in your year, but she moved to Hicks. That's Isaac. He doesn't say a lot, but he's really nice. And you know Tao. Sorry in advance if he says anything rude to you. That's just the way he is.
So, of course, in the show, this is not the first time we're meeting Elle. We've been following Elle. Can I help you with something? It wouldn't be a Tom video without Darla trying to steal the spotlight. She knows she's the real star. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah. So in the show, we've already been following Elle. We've already been following Elle for some time, and we know her quite well. But here, Nick recognizes her from school, and Charlie slides right in with the info that she's trans and she goes to the all-girls school and all that. So, no, you may not sit on my keyboard. Okay. And also, Charlie immediately says right out loud to Nick, I think she and Tao kind of like each other, but they haven't said anything about it to anyone. If you're hearing noises, it's me moving my... I have this really awesome Golden Girls notebook that a friend got me. But these tabs, Darla just wants to eat them, so I'm just going to move this down here so she does not attempt to eat them. Okay, back to the show. Okay, so Charlie just outright states, this is some serious exposition here, that's Elle, she goes to the all-girls school, she's trans, she and Tao like each other, that's all you need to know. And Nick's like, oh, kind of like us then. And of course it's better in the show that they show us this rather than telling it to us. And I think it's interesting in the show because the nature of Tao and Elle's relationship is really kind of amorphous for a while. I've seen a lot of reactors just assume that they were dating from the beginning just because of the way that Tao talks about her. Anyway, Charlie introduces Nick to the gang. Aled is very happy and smiling, and Elle is happy and smiling, and Tao is just kind of And Nick says, hey, Tao, and Tao's like, hey, and then as soon as Nick turns away, he's like, grumble, grumble, grumble.
Everyone, this is Nick.
Hey.
Oh, good. We're just choosing fun names for the board.
Can you at least try to get to know him?
I'll try.
And we have our bowling scoreboard with birthday boy, Aled smiley face, Elle smells, Beanie, Tao, and Nick. We have Charlie taking out 2 pins, Nick encouraging Aled. We have some enjoyment of chips and beverages and chatting. Someone got a strike. I assume it's Elle based on this pose. Tao is sad that he can't. And this, the fact that Tao can see Nick and Charlie like this, Nick literally with his arms around Charlie, both of them blushing and looking at each other like they love each other deeply, and still think that Nick is straight, just boggles the mind. But I guess since at this point he kind of thinks that Nick is leading Charlie on for some nefarious reason of his own, I guess that's just part of it. But okay, so Nick won the first game, and Aled polite clapping, Tao looks pissed off. And then we have this lovely exchange that is the same in the show. You totally cheated. Oh yeah, how? You have strong rugby arms. Oh, do I now? I thought you liked my arms. Shut up.
You definitely cheated.
Oh, yeah? How?
You have strong rugby arms.
Strong rugby.
You okay?
Yeah. I'm good. You've got an unfair advantage.
I thought you liked my arms.
Shut up.
And here's Tao looking at them being all lovey-dovey and getting more and more pissed off. It seems like Tao reaches a breaking point here where Nick is just being so flirty with Charlie for good reason. And I guess Tao can see how into Nick Charlie is. And instead of, like, Aled looks at this and sees that these are two people who are clearly in a relationship. And Tao looks at this and sees this straight boy is messing with my Charlie. So they're about to start game 2, and Charlie heads off to the restroom, and Tao sits there stewing for a bit, and then is like, no, I'm going to go talk to him. And Aled says, huh, about what? And looks at Nick, and Tao's like, I won't be long. And Aled's like, no, Tao, don't. And in the show, Elle is the one who has this conversation with Tao, and Elle is telling him not to because it's Charlie's birthday, you shouldn't do this.
I'm gonna go talk to him.
About? Tao, no. It's his birthday.
I have to.
But I think we can agree that Aled is saying no, Tao, don't, because he knows that Nick and Charlie are dating. Like, it is so clear to him that these are two people in a relationship. So he's like, no, Tao, come on, man. But he, to his credit, he doesn't say anything to Tao because he knows it's not his secret to tell. But okay, so here we have Charlie washing his hands, and Tao comes into the bathroom, and I love this picture of Tao just with his hands on his hips. Yeah, so he says, Charlie, look, I'm saying this to you as a friend. You need to stop this thing with Nick Nelson.
Charlie, look. I'm saying this to you as a friend. You need to stop this thing with Nick Nelson.
What?
He's going on a date with this girl. I heard him agree to it after that rugby match the other week.
That can't be true.
Fine. Don't believe me. I'm clearly just lying for fun.
And then we have Nick's shoes saying, I think I'm going to go get more chips. Nick needs to defend his title. Off he goes to the snack bar. And, he can hear what's going on in the bathroom. And Tao is saying he's clearly straight and he's leading you on. And Charlie's like, what? And Tao says, he's flirting with you for a laugh. Charlie says, that's not true. Come on, even I can tell he's flirting with you. Well, correct, he is. You think he's straight just because he doesn't look gay? And Tao says, well, isn't he straight? And here we have the moment of truth. And Nick's like, oh crap. And Charlie's like, oh crap. And because he can't answer, Tao's like, see, he's just an attention seeker like Harry and the rest of his mates. And Charlie says, he's not like that. He's my. And then Charlie, thinking back to Nick wanting to keep them a secret, he's my friend. And then we cut to Nick just floored that Charlie has kept his secret in private with his best friend in this kind of situation where Tao is like yelling at him and accusing him.
Do you really think he's messing me around?
I mean, that's what it looks like.
But he's my friend.
Fine.
I think this moment means a whole lot to Nick, obviously. Okay, and Tao's like, but you clearly like him. And Charlie says, so what? And Tao says, so you're never going to get over it until you cut him out of your life. And Charlie's like, well, I'm not going to. Why do you keep nagging me about this? Nick is one of my best friends now, and that's not going to change. And here we get some extra information. And Tao says, I'm just worried. Worried about what? And Tao says, I'm worried that one day he'll find out you like him and, I don't know, do something bad. Like, a lot of his year 11 friends, like Harry, are kind of judgmental and exactly the sort of people who bullied you last year. I was the only one on your side back then, and I'm so scared that'll happen to you again. We weren't close with Aled and Elle back then. They don't know what it was like. You used to be terrified to come to school, and I couldn't do anything to help. So this scene is very exposition-y. Like, Tao is telling us exactly what he's feeling and exactly why he's feeling it and exactly what happened last year. And this is all excellent information, but I do think they made the right decision to let this be subtext in the show. I do hope we get kind of a little more about it, and it would have been interesting to see maybe a flashback during this, kind of similarly to at the beginning of episode 2 where we saw Charlie in the hallway and Nick kind of looking on, remembering, like even some flashes of what happened the previous year might have been helpful to give us more info about Tao's motivation here, but it is good to have it spelled out, at least because we have this information now. We know that, the reason why Tao is so on guard and so against Nick and Charlie being together is that he was the only one there for Charlie last year. He remembers how horrible it was for Charlie, and he doesn't want him to go through that again. And since he sees Nick as being just this straight rugby guy who's messing with Charlie, who doesn't actually have feelings for him and is just flirting with him to set him up for a joke or something, like, it makes sense that he's reacting so strongly. So, okay, and Charlie's like, why didn't you just say that? I promise Nick's not like that. He's different, trust me. You just got to get to know him. And Tao says, okay, fine, but if he even hints that he might be a dick. And Charlie's like, yeah, you'll report him to our head of house, I know.
But if he is even slightly mean to you...
Yeah. You'll murder him. I know.
I was going to say, I said in a strongly worded DM, but murder's fine too.
And I definitely prefer the strongly worded DM. I think that's a really good snappy line. But okay, so they come out, and Nick is over by the snack bar, kind of waves wincingly with a wincing smile, and Charlie waves back. And I do like here, so in the show, in this scene, Tao just looks irritated and kind of like, ugh, just go.
Just go.
When they see Nick here. But here, he's actually smiling. Like what Charlie has said has convinced him to a certain degree, at least a bit, that Nick is okay. So he's like, just go. I'll meet you back at our lane. And then Charlie goes over to Nick, and Tao smiles at them. Like, for the first time, he's able to see that, yeah, actually, maybe Nick is being genuine. I don't think he suspects that they're dating or that Nick is anything but straight, but he's kind of, for the very first time, seeing Nick as Charlie sees him, as someone who's being genuine, who's not trying to mess with Charlie for any reason. So, okay, so Charlie's like, you getting more food? And Nick says, yep. And then Charlie says, haha, you're going to need it if you want to beat Elle again. And Nick just hugs him. Just straight out hugs him.
Are you getting more food?
And Charlie is, pleased but surprised and is like, what is this for? And Nick says, I'll tell you later. And Charlie says, okay. And the staff person pops up. Have you two been served? Clear, sir, you are interrupting a moment here. I think it's very obvious that these two gentlemen are having a moment, so hang on. Back we go to bowling, and Elle says yes because she has won. Elle is very happy. Tao is not so happy because he always loses, but Elle is like, oh, it's because you have such adorably short arms, tiny Tao. Yeah, and Elle kind of Elle kind of bullying Tao about his size is something that we sadly do not get in the show because William Gao is a giant. Like, he's so tall. But yeah, tiny Tao. So everybody's packing up. Charlie puts his sweater on. Elle puts her jacket on. Elle and Tao head off. And Charlie says, thanks for coming, Aled. Aled says, thanks for inviting me. And here we get pretty much confirmation that Aled knows what's going on. So he says, oh, and Nick's really nice. I'm glad you two are, I'm glad he's here. Bye. And Charlie's like, bye? So it seems like Charlie has not caught on to the fact that Aled knows what's going on between him and Nick. But yeah, Aled's a smart guy. He knows what's going on. So Nick comes back from the bathroom. Everyone had to go, and Charlie's dad won't be here for another 10 minutes, so off they go to sit. And Nick was able to pick up on the fact that Tao and Elle really like each other, but neither of them will admit it. Okay, so they sit there with their drinks, and Nick asks if Charlie's going to open his present, and Charlie's like, oh, as long as you don't mind. And Nick says, I kind of want to see your reaction. Oh, and I got a text. I kind of want to see your reaction, haha.
So, you gonna open my present then?
Yeah, as long as you don't mind.
Oh, I kind of want to see your reaction.
And open up the best present ever, a picture of Charlie and Nick and Nellie. And we can see Nick is looking at Charlie with just absolute love in his eyes. And Charlie says, you decorated this yourself? And Nick says, yeah, sorry I didn't have time to buy you anything. That was one of my favorite days ever, so.
I genuinely didn't have time to go out and buy you something. So, sorry, it's a bit handmade. That was just one of my favorite days ever, so.
And Charlie's like, I want to kiss you so bad right now. And Nick is into it. He looks around and he gets a menu and is like, okay.
I want to kiss you so bad right now.
Okay,
You don't have to.
I want to.
You sure?
Yeah.
And they, are you sure? So Charlie checking in with him, making sure he's sure. And they're holding hands and they kiss behind the menu. And then we have a bit of nuzzling, and Nick confesses, hey, I overheard you and Tal in the bathroom earlier. And Charlie's like, oh no. And Nick says, you don't believe what he said, do you? I'm not just doing this for a laugh or attention. Charlie's like, no, of course not. And Nick says, yeah, I don't know why I thought you'd believe that. See, no tension here, just, yeah. Tal can be very forceful about his opinions. And we're holding hands. I'm so scared I'm just doing to you what Ben did to you. And again, I think the comic does so much of directly stating what is left as subtext in the show. And you can debate what's better or worse. I do think that it's good to leave this as subtext, especially in the medium of television, because like you don't want to get bogged down by all that exposition. But I feel like you can get away with it in a comic. But yeah, Nick outright says what we know show Nick is feeling inside. He doesn't want to do to Charlie what Ben did.
You're nothing like him. This is completely different.
Yeah.
He saw how much that damaged Charlie. But immediately Charlie's like, no, you are nothing like him. Reassuring him immediately. And Nick says, I wish being out wasn't so terrifying to me. Charlie says, yeah, I've been there. And Nick says, I remember when you used to get bullied. I wish I'd helped you or done something, I don't know. And Charlie's like, but you didn't even know me then. And Nick says, I wish I had known you. I wish I'd known then what I know now.
I wish I'd met you when I was younger.
Yeah?
I wish I'd known then what I know now.
Maybe then I would have helped. So in the show, it's left kind of up in the air as to why Nick is suddenly saying, I wish I'd known you. I wish I'd known then what I know now. But in the comic, it's very clear. He's specifically talking about, if I had known you, I could have helped you. Or if I'd known that, if I'd known more about myself and my identity, maybe I would have reached out back then and tried to help you. Yeah, but Charlie, of course, pokes him with a straw and is like, no being sad on my birthday.
No being sad on my birthday.
And Nick rightly points out, I thought it wasn't your birthday until Tuesday. Isn't that what you said? And Charlie just adorably is like, ha ha ha, Nick, stop messaging me while I'm recording. Nobody messages me forever, and then the second I'm recording, it's like, bzz, 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 bzz. But okay, so Charlie being absolutely adorable, and you can see Nick just admiring the adorableness, looking upon him with love. And then they're having a moment, but then Charlie's phone rings, and it's Dad, and off they go. All right, and that is basically the end of the bowling scene. So In the show, of course, we get an additional scene at the arcade, and we have the whole Imogen plot going on, and Tao and Elle, and there's a lot happening, and Isaac becoming a millionaire in the arcade, winning all those coins, which are probably worth maybe he can buy a sandwich after or something. But yeah, but I really like how this scene goes in both versions. But in this version, in the comics version, I think we get a lot more clarity as far as what's actually going on. Sadly, we don't get the scene between Nick and Tao, which I do like in the show, where Tao's like, "You're messing with him, this is your final warning." But that also means that we get more understanding from Tao in the comics, where Charlie tells him Nick's not like that, and Tao actually believes him. So I do kind of prefer that. I think Tao in the show and Tao in the comics are a bit different in terms of how far they take things. I mean, they have a lot of similarities, and they're both working from the same motivations, but I think Tao in the show holds on to his anti-Nick stance for way too long, and takes things far more personally than I think Tao in the comics does. And yeah, but we'll talk about that more later. But in any case, I really like this section. We got lots of good stuff happening with the bowling and them at school, and the rugby practice is one of my favorite scenes. So yeah. Okay, well, next time we will pick things up from that moment. And I want to say the concert is the next thing, although it's not a big plot point. It's more just we don't even get to see the concert. I mean, not that we got to see the concert in the show either, but we don't go to the concert. And there's a lot. We'll see that next time. I don't need to talk about it. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and please let me know your comments. I love to hear, I say it every time, but I love to read your comments. They are the highlight of my day. So please leave comments, leave essays, say lots of stuff, lots of good stuff. And yeah, if you want to be friends on social media, you can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. Instagram has a lot of pictures of cats, so if you like seeing pictures of cats, and one video recently of a cat stuck behind a dresser, it was Darla. You can go to my Instagram and check that out. Okay, all right, then I will see you guys next time. Have a lovely morning or afternoon or evening or day. No, morning or afternoon or evening or night was what I was struggling for. It is night right now, and I need to get ready for bed. So, yep. Okay, bye.